My girlfriend mocked my small apartment while secretly using my money, so I kicked her out. And now she lives worse than I ever did. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I used to think I was lucky to have a girlfriend like Rachel. I grew up poor, not we can't afford that toy poor, but we might not have lights this week poor. So as an adult, I've always been careful. I work a steady job at a local logistics company, nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills. I live in a modest one-bedroom apartment in the quieter part of town. It's nothing fancy, old laminate floors, a second-hand couch, and a kitchen barely big enough for two people to stand in. But it's mine. It smells like coffee in the morning and fresh detergent on Sundays. It's warm, safe, and I've made it feel like home. I've always been proud of that. I don't waste money, I don't chase trends. I've been slowly saving for the future, maybe one day a home, maybe even a family. Then came Rachel. She breezed into my life like a summer afternoon, bright, warm, full of energy. I met her through a friend at a weekend BBQ. She laughed at my dumb jokes, loved board games, and told me she was tired of shallow guys in designer clothes. She said I was refreshing. Real, she called it. On our third date, she saw my apartment for the first time and looked around with this wide smile. It's cozy, she said. I love simple things. This is so down to earth. I remember her curling up on my thrift store couch with her knees tucked under her, sipping tea like she belonged there. I felt safe. Like maybe I finally found someone who didn't need flashing lights or bank statements to feel content. For the first time in a long while, I let myself believe that maybe I didn't need to change anything for love to find me, but I didn't know then. Rachel was changing something already. It started small, so small I brushed it off the first dozen times. One night we were watching a movie in my apartment, and the screen froze for a second. Rachel giggled and said, "Your Wi-Fi's just like your couch, barely hanging on." She laughed, gave me a playful nudge, and I laughed too. It felt harmless, like teasing. Then came the jokes at breakfast. Your toaster makes bread warm, not toasted, or at dinner. Your stove takes so long I could age a year waiting for pasta. Sometimes when she was on a video call with her friends, I'd hear her in the background say things like, "Yeah, his place is cute." Like tiny cute. Or worse, "I swear I feel like we're playing Sims here. Everything is mini-sized." I'd poke my head in with a smile, acting unbothered. But inside, each comment chipped away a little more. One evening, her friend Lara came over. Rachel gave her a tour, which didn't take long in a one-bedroom. And as they walked past the bathroom, she said, "Be careful, if you stretch your arms out, you'll hit both walls." They both laughed. I stood in the kitchen, pretending to focus on stirring pasta that had already finished cooking. Later that night, I told her, "Hey, sometimes the way you talk about my place, it makes me feel kind of small." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, babe. You know I'm just kidding. Don't be so sensitive. You're so grounded, it's part of your charm." And like a fool, I nodded. Told myself I was overthinking, but that feeling, and of being a charity case dressed up as a boyfriend, it had already taken root. I just didn't know yet how deep it would grow. I've always been careful with money, not cheap, just intentional. I track my expenses, save what I can, and avoid impulse buys. But a few months into dating Rachel, my bank account started dipping faster than usual. At first, I thought it was just me being paranoid. She never outright asked for money. It started innocently. "Babe, can I use your card to grab groceries?" "I'll pay you back." Of course, I said yes. She'd come back with bags from the organic store and maybe one or two extra things. Fancy almond butter, imported cheese. It was on sale, she'd say with a smile. Then came more casual requests. "Do you mind covering dinner tonight? My paycheck's late again." Or, "I left my card at home, can you spot me just this once?" The thing is, she always had an excuse. Rent mix-ups, job delays, client didn't pay on time. And every time I convinced myself it was temporary. I mean, couples support each other, right? But over time, the small favors stacked up. Subscriptions I didn't remember signing up for. Late-night food delivery charges when I was home alone. Spa services booked under my card. I once confronted her gently. "Hey, have you noticed how much we've been spending lately?" She smiled and kissed my cheek. "That's just life, babe. Can't take money with you when you're gone." Then she turned the TV back on like nothing happened. One night, I checked my savings account and realized I'd burned through nearly $2,000 in less than 3 months. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, feeling this creeping, gut-twisting suspicion. I wasn't just losing money, I was losing control of my own life. And the worst part? I still didn't want to believe she was using me. Not yet. My birthday fell on a Saturday that year. I had no big plans, just wanted a quiet night, maybe pizza and a movie. But Rachel had other ideas. She said she was planning something special and unforgettable. I'll admit I felt excited. Maybe this was her way of showing me I mattered to her. When the day came, she blindfolded me and had an Uber pick us up. We ended up at a sleek modern house on the other side of town, her friend Ivy's place. Big glass windows, marble countertops, gold light fixtures. I'd never stepped foot in a house like that. Inside were about 20 people, mostly her friends. I barely recognized anyone. But they all greeted me, smiled, handed me drinks. I was trying to be polite, even though I already felt like a guest at my own party. Then came the moment that burned itself into my brain. Someone said, "Why didn't you guys just host this at your place?" And Rachel, without missing a beat, laughed and said, "Pfft," and have everyone squeeze into his little shoebox. We'd be elbow to elbow in his dollhouse kitchen. People chuckled. Someone muttered, "Damn," I just stood there, drink in hand, like the punchline to a joke I never wanted to be part of. Later that night, she posted a birthday pic of us, her arms around me, fake smile on her face, with the caption, "Upgraded the boyfriend. Now just need to upgrade his lifestyle." My stomach dropped. I didn't say anything that night. I smiled, thanked people, even hugged a few strangers goodbye. But when we got home, I didn't sleep. I just sat at the edge of the bed scrolling through her post and the comments underneath. Somewhere between "Yas Queens" and "You can do so much better," I realized she wasn't mocking just my apartment, she was mocking me. A few nights later, we got into an argument over something small, some plates she left unwashed after promising to clean up. I was tired, emotionally drained, and the words came out more frustrated than I meant them to. "Can you just help out once without me asking 3 times?" I snapped. She scoffed, turned around, and crossed her arms. "Wow, someone's acting brand new. You live in a box and think you're Gordon Ramsay now?" That one stung, but I stayed quiet. She kept going. "You want me to act like a housewife in this glorified storage unit?" "Newsflash, I'm doing you a favor by being here." I stood frozen. My ears rang. She wasn't joking anymore. No cutesy tone. Just pure contempt. I tried to stay calm. "You don't have to say things like that." "This is my home," she laughed. "Your home?" "Babe, this is a stopover. A stepping stone. Nobody dreams of living like this." There it was. The truth. The thing she'd been dancing around for months but never said directly. "You think I'm beneath you," I said quietly. She rolled her eyes. "No, I think you've settled. And I'm not going to settle with you." Silence stretched between us like a chasm. She left that night to clear her head and stayed with a friend. Didn't even text to say goodnight. I sat in my apartment, surrounded by the things I'd worked years to afford. My old records, my scratched-up coffee table, my faded but comfortable armchair, all things I'd once taken pride in. And now suddenly I saw them through her eyes. Cheap, embarrassing, insignificant. For the first time in years, my home didn't feel like home. And the worst part? I started wondering if maybe she was right. She came back 2 days later like nothing had happened, smiling, carrying a smoothie, talking about some new skincare trend. I stood in the doorway, watching her drop her purse on the floor and kick off her shoes like she hadn't called my life a joke. I didn't say much. I couldn't. Something had shifted in me. That night, while she showered, I sat with my laptop and opened up my bank account again. I had this itch I couldn't shake, a growing sense that something was off. I checked my transaction history, cross-referenced dates she said she was broke with when my card was used. Then I checked Venmo. She'd forgotten to log out once on my phone months ago, and the app was still connected. Curiosity turned to dread as I scrolled. Payments from sponsors. Cash deposits from affiliate deals. Thousands of dollars coming in. While she was claiming she couldn't afford shampoo, she was making money hand over fist. There were even messages to friends like, "He's such a sweet guy. Pays for everything. I don't even have to try." And another one that read, "I'm riding this out until I get my next campaign check. Then I'm out." I stared at the screen, heart pounding, hands ice cold. She wasn't just inconsiderate, she was calculated. All this time, I thought she was struggling with me. Turns out she was just stealing my generosity and mocking me for it behind my back. When she came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, singing softly to herself, I looked at her like a stranger. She kissed my cheek and asked, "Want to order sushi tonight?" I nodded slowly, but in my head, I was already planning the end. I waited 2 more days, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to be calm, measured. I didn't want to yell. I didn't want tears. I wanted clarity, and I wanted her to see I meant it. She came home that Friday evening carrying shopping bags from a boutique downtown. They were having a clearance sale, she said, dropping them on the couch I bought. I sat her down and opened my laptop, clicked through the tabs, her Venmo, my bank statements, the group chats she thought I'd never see. I said nothing, just turned the screen toward her. At first, she played dumb. "What is this? Why are you going through my stuff?" Then defensive. "You're spying on me now?" That's toxic, then angry. "You don't understand how hard I work. Influencing isn't just selfies and hashtags." I didn't say a word, just stared. Finally, she scoffed and folded her arms. "So what? I've helped you too, emotionally. Relationships aren't scorecards." I took a deep breath. "I'm not angry that you make money. I'm angry that you lied about it and used mine instead." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. You act like you're some millionaire. It's not like I drained your fortune." "No," I said. "Just my trust." That's when I told her. She had 7 days to pack her things and move out. I wasn't going to be used anymore. She blinked, laughed nervously. "You're kidding." "I'm not." Her voice sharpened. "You think you'll find someone better than me? Look at your life." "Be realistic." I smiled, not because I felt strong, but because I finally knew I wasn't the pathetic one in the room. "This life may be small," I said, "but at least it's honest." She didn't say another word, just stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. I sat back, on my couch, the same one she once called embarrassing, and felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. She didn't wait the full 7 days. 2 mornings later, I woke up to the sound of drawers slamming. I walked into the living room to find her stuffing clothes into bags, her face stone cold. No emotion, no apology. "Guess I'll make it easy for both of us," she said without looking at me. I didn't respond. I just leaned against the doorway watching. She moved like she was trying to erase her presence, snatching clothes off hangers, grabbing makeup from the bathroom, even ripping her half-used cereal box from the pantry like it had offended her. But then I noticed something that made my stomach twist. She wasn't just taking her things. My Bluetooth speaker was gone from the shelf. The leather jacket my brother gifted me, the one she always borrowed, was folded on top of her bag. "A few small electronics? Missing? You're taking my stuff now?" I asked, stepping forward. She didn't flinch. "Oh, come on. Like you can't afford a new speaker," I laughed, bitter, low. "It's not about the speaker. It's about the principle." She zipped up her suitcase. "Principles don't keep the lights on, sweetheart." She walked out that day without a backward glance. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't slam the door. Just pulled it shut gently like she wanted to leave no trace. Blocked me on everything that same evening. Text, social media, even Netflix. I sat there alone in my so-called matchbox apartment and looked around. The silence was louder than I expected. I thought I'd feel free, relieved, victorious even. But instead, it just felt empty. Not because I missed her, but because I finally realized how much of myself I'd been bending to make her comfortable. And now? There was no one left to bend for. You'd think kicking her out would be the moment I got my life back, but it wasn't. Not right away. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was loud, deafening even. Every creak in the floor, every hum of the fridge, every echo of an empty room. It all reminded me that I'd let someone poison my space, my pride, my heart. And I let it happen for months. The night she left, I sat on the couch for hours. Didn't eat. Didn't cry, just sat, scrolling through old texts, photos, videos, her smile in every one of them. That same smile she wore while mocking me behind my back. I stopped going to the gym. Called in sick to work, once, twice, then 5 days in a row. My boss called me to check in, but I didn't answer. I didn't want to talk. Talking meant unpacking. And I wasn't ready to face how badly I'd been played. I'd open the fridge, stare inside, then close it again. Everything tasted like dust. At one point, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. My hair was overgrown, eyes sunken, shoulders slumped like I'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. And worse than all of that was the voice in my head. You let this happen. You weren't enough. Maybe you really are just a guy with a loser life. The worst betrayal wasn't what she did, it was how much I believed I deserved it. I hit rock bottom not with a crash, but with a slow, quiet fall. Days blending into nights. Nights into weeks. Then, one night, I found something buried in my closet, an old iPod I hadn't used in years. I charged it out of boredom, and as it powered on, a voice came through my earbuds I didn't expect to hear. My dad's. I don't even remember recording that voice memo. It must have been years ago before he passed. My dad's voice filled my tiny apartment, steady and warm. Pride isn't about what you own. It's about how you treat people and yourself. Don't let anyone make you feel small in your own home. I sat there with my head in my hands, listening on repeat. And something inside me cracked, but not the same way it had before. This wasn't the sting of shame. It was a jolt of clarity. I woke up the next morning and opened every window. Let the cold air rush in. It smelled like rain and dust. I stripped my bed, washed every dish, threw out the takeout boxes stacked in the corner. It was like dragging myself out of a grave. I started running again. Just a block at first, then 2, then a mile. Sweat pouring, lungs burning, but for the first time in months, my heartbeat felt like mine again. I opened my banking app, canceled every unnecessary subscription, locked down my card. I built a budget, started a small freelance gig designing logos online. It wasn't much, but seeing even a few dollars roll back into my savings felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. And one night, almost without thinking, I wrote a tweet about financial abuse in relationships. Not naming names, just sharing what happened. It went viral overnight. Thousands of likes, hundreds of replies. People telling their own stories. It was surreal, all these strangers saying, I went through this too. It didn't fix everything, but it made me feel less alone. For the first time since she left, I sat back in my small apartment, sweaty from a run, hands still trembling from reading strangers' comments, and thought, maybe this isn't the end of my story. Maybe it's the start. It had been about 3 months since Rachel left, and I hadn't heard a word from her. Not a text. Not a view on my stories. Nothing. She'd vanished, which, honestly, was exactly what I needed. But then I got a DM from someone I barely knew, a mutual friend of hers named Nate. We'd met once at a party. He messaged me out of the blue. Hey, not trying to stir anything, but have you seen Rachel lately? I replied, no, why? He sent me a screenshot, her latest Instagram story. Rachel, the same woman who mocked my Matchbox apartment, was sitting on the floor of what looked like a shared dorm-style room. Cheap beige curtains, peeling paint, a single mattress on the floor, instant noodles in her lap. The caption said, glam to grim, but still surviving. I didn't know whether to laugh or feel sorry. Nate explained that she'd been couch hopping for a while. After she left me, she moved in with her influencer friend Ivy, but apparently overstayed her welcome. The brand deals? They dried up. People lost interest. She got dropped from a couple collabs after being difficult to work with. Now she was renting a room in a chaotic shared house on the outskirts of town. No privacy, no heat. 4 other people fighting over a single bathroom. I stared at the image for a long time. This woman who once called my life pathetic now lived in a place worse than anything I ever had. And here's the thing. I didn't feel joy, or revenge, or smug satisfaction. I felt nothing, because by then she didn't live in my head anymore. She was just someone I used to know. It happened on a rainy Wednesday. I ducked into my regular coffee spot, shaking water from my jacket, when I heard someone say my name. Ethan? I turned, and there she was. Rachel, standing by the pastry case, holding a chipped laptop and a lukewarm cappuccino. Her hair tied back, no makeup, wearing a hoodie that didn't quite fit. She looked different. Not just tired and smaller, like the world had finally knocked the wind out of her. I forced a polite nod. Hey, she gave a faint smile. Wow, you look good. I did, actually. I'd lost 10 pounds, cut my hair, started dressing better. Not for anyone else, just for me. She motioned toward a table. Do you have a minute to talk? I hesitated, then followed her. She sat down across from me, eyes scanning my face like she was trying to read a familiar book in a new language. I heard about your tweet, she said. Went pretty viral, huh? I nodded. Yeah, guess people relate more than I thought. She stirred her drink for a second, then said, I've been thinking a lot. About us, about how things ended. I stayed quiet. I was stupid, she said finally. I thought I could do better. I thought you were just safe, boring. But looking back, you were the only real thing I had, I exhaled slowly. You didn't just leave. You mocked me. You used me, her voice cracked. I know I was selfish, and I'm sorry. There was a long pause. She looked up, hopeful. Maybe we could catch up sometime. As friends? I smiled, not cruelly but calmly. Rachel, I had something real. You had something convenient. She blinked. I'm not angry anymore, I added, but I've moved on. I don't revisit old lessons. Then I stood, nodded once, and walked out into the rain, not looking back. A few days after that awkward coffee shop moment, I got an email from a podcast producer. She'd seen my viral tweet thread and wanted to feature my story on a segment about financial ghosting and emotional scams. I hesitated at first. I wasn't trying to chase clout, but something told me it might help someone else avoid what I went through. So I agreed. The interview went live the following week. I didn't use Rachel's name. I didn't drag her character. I just told the truth about what it feels like to be slowly erased in your own relationship, to have your generosity turned into a punchline, to wake up and realize the person in your bed doesn't even like you, just what you provide. The response was overwhelming. People started commenting things like, your tiny apartment sounds more like a castle than some people's hearts. You're the kind of guy people dream of but treat like a doormat. This is why nice guys stop trying. But I'm glad you didn't. Strangers reached out with their own stories. Women, men, non-binary folks. People who had been used, discarded, humiliated. People who stayed too long out of love or hope or fear of starting over. And somehow my little apartment, the one Rachel mocked for being matchbox-sized, became the symbol of something bigger. Of safety, of healing, of dignity. Someone even made a TikTok edit using photos I'd shared of my space, captioned, small apartment, big heart. It got over 500,000 likes. I didn't feel famous. I felt seen. For the first time, the life I had, the one I built with care and pride, was finally being recognized for what it truly was. Enough. It didn't take long before I noticed a familiar pattern. Every time I posted something, a story, a photo, even just a playlist, there'd be a single anonymous like, no name, no comment. Just the digital equivalent of a shadow peeking through the blinds. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then I caught a new Instagram follower with a throwaway handle and 0 posts. Profile picture was a generic flower. And yet, it viewed every story within minutes. It was Rachel. I just knew. Then, one night, a message request appeared. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I had to say it. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I just didn't realize it in time. I stared at the words. No anger this time. No manipulation. Just regret, raw and clumsy. For a second, my thumb hovered over the reply button. I imagined typing something brutal, something final, a punch of a sentence to get the last word. But I didn't. I closed the message, deleted it, blocked the account. Because closure doesn't always come from what we say. Sometimes it comes from knowing we could say something and choosing peace instead. I leaned back on my couch, the same couch she once mocked. My playlist hummed softly in the background. A candle flickered on the coffee table, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I realized something. I didn't need revenge. She was already living in it. Not in some dramatic, ruined life kind of way, but in the quiet, creeping ache of knowing you let something good go, and you'll never get it back. I looked around my apartment one evening. Same walls, same old floor lamp with the flickering bulb, same chipped coffee table. Nothing had really changed, except me. This was the same place she rolled her eyes at where she whispered snide remarks on the phone, where she made me feel like a charity project wearing a Target hoodie. For a while, I believed her. I let her words wrap around my neck like invisible chains. I let her decide the worth of my space, my life, my choices. But now, I see the way the evening light falls across the bookshelf. I feel the warmth of a home that smells like coffee and clean laundry. I sit on my thrifted couch, legs tucked under me, laptop open, and realize this place is mine. Every inch of it was earned. She didn't see that. Couldn't see it. She thought square footage determined value. But I've learned something since she left. You can live in a mansion and still feel caged. You can sit in a penthouse and still feel unseen. And you can live in a 600 square foot apartment and feel like the king of your own world. The truth is, the apartment never made me feel small. She did, and without her, the space expanded again. Not in size, but in spirit. I started hosting people again, inviting friends over for simple dinners, playing vinyls on the record player, laughter echoing off the walls that once echoed with doubt. I didn't upgrade my furniture, didn't knock down walls, didn't do a damn thing to improve it. I just stopped apologizing for it, and somehow, that made all the difference. It's been a little over a year since Rachel walked out that door. Since then, I've built something quiet but strong, not flashy, not Instagram-worthy, but real. I kept the apartment, not because I couldn't afford something bigger, but because I no longer felt the need to prove anything. My freelance work picked up. I landed a steady stream of clients, then launched a small course on budgeting and boundaries, the two things I'd once surrendered without realizing. People started calling me the guy who turned heartbreak into healing. I don't know if I'm all that, but I'll take it. Every morning, I make the same coffee in the same tiny kitchen. Every evening, I light the same candle on the same scuffed table. And every night, I fall asleep in a space that reflects who I really am, not who someone else wanted me to pretend to be. I started dating again. Slowly, carefully, with new eyes. I now look for kindness, not charm. Accountability, not apologies after disrespect. Someone who sees value not in what I have, but in how I live. One night, I posted a photo of my apartment, just the corner with the record player and my bookshelf. Captioned it, "This tiny corner gave me everything I needed to rebuild my life." The comments poured in. "This looks like peace." Not small, just curated. I'd take this over a mansion with the wrong person any day. And I realized, Rachel didn't just lose a boyfriend, she lost a whole life. She didn't have the patience to understand. She mocked my small apartment. But now, she probably wishes she had a corner in it. And me? I wouldn't give her even that.